if I'm guiding well, if I'm a successful guide, then a lot of what you're going to get from me is easier understanding of already existing human design material. I only work with source material, and I have no interest in changing source material. But you can say a lot of similar sentences a lot of different ways, and they'll land differently for the person who's taking it in. So when I come out and I say, let's talk about circuitry, you know, you'll naturally get whatever wants to come out of me. That's the first thing. You'll get what I've seen, what I've witnessed, what I've been exposed to. You get a lot of like, this is all of the information about circuitry I've encountered. Now that being said, I'm also not going to deliver every single thing I know about circuitry. That would be ridiculous. But I think what naturally comes out of me is what has affected me more, what's had a greater impact. I think it's funny to say impact, knowing that source material comes from Ra, who is a manifestor. It has impact. So I'm gonna touch on circuitry. I'm not sure what direction I'm gonna go in, but what lens, what filter are you getting this through? You'll get it through innocence, motivation. You'll get it through my third line experience. You get it through my taste cognition. You get it through my channel of surrender. There are so many filters that are bringing up this information. Whenever I'm about to make content, it always happens the same way. I get a line, I get a quote, I get a phrase, I hear from something, I hear from somewhere inside of me, I don't know, a line. And sometimes they're original lines, sometimes they're one line out of source material, and it's like if I pull that thread, the rest of the content comes out. The phrase or the quote that I heard today is a source material quote, and this is the quote. Those who are lost will be found in groups. That's a very, very, very small piece of a much bigger lecture about post-2027. Now, when I hear that, those who are lost will be found in groups, I hear that as channel of surrender, and I want to make just a single quote piece of content. And I immediately can see one of the first statements or questions in the comments section, and knowing that that's going to be one of the first things I encounter, it automatically tells me what to put next in the video. If I say those who are lost will be found in groups, the immediate pushback is from someone who has either all collective circuitry or a lot of collective circuitry, and they don't understand really what it's about. And the assumption is that because it's collective, it is group or works for groups or desires groups or is meant to be in groups. What is circuitry? Let's start there. Think about a circuit as a pathway. If you think about race cars, they're on a circuit, they're on a track, they're on a path. Now, when you think about the body graph has 9 centers. Yes, there are 64 gates. Yes, there are 2 gates to a channel, but it's not as simple as 64 divided by 2 equals 32 channels. There are more than 32 channels in the body graph. How many? Go see if you can figure it out. I'm going to give you a clue. The integration circuit is where it gets really tricky because gates 57, 10, 20, and 34 can be combined quite a few different ways. So how many channels are there really in the body graph? Now, when you're looking at the body graph and you're seeing the channels, what you're really seeing are these pathways that go from center to center to center. Now, specific pathways stay in a same loop together, and we call them circuitry. There are 3 different types of circuitry, and each type of circuitry has like a subtype of circuitry. One type of circuitry is called tribal circuitry, and you will identify this in the innermost circle of the body graph. Now there's a subgroup of tribal circuitry, and we call it the tribal cradle or the tribal defense cradle. That's where we have the channel of mating and the channel of preservation. Now around that you get a lot of tribal circuitry. Then there's another outer ring, but it's not your most outer ring. It's kind of the middle ring, and this is where you get most of the individual circuitry. Then we have the outer rings. Outer rings are collective. Now the subgroups of circuitry are pretty interesting because tribal had that defense cradle. The individual circuitry, the middle ring, its subgroup is called the integration network. And that's what we talked about with 57, 10, 20, 34. Now there is also one other piece connecting the G center to the ego center, channel of initiation. It is still part of the integration circuit. Then we have our collective, and I always remember that there's this mirror image, and I think when I get to this clip in my editing, I want to flip this one clip and it doesn't really make sense for the rest of the video, so bear with me. Collective circuitry. One side is logical, one side is abstract. Both of them are meant to find information either through experiment or experience and share that information with the greater whole, with the collective. So we've got tribe, tribal defense, individual, integration. You can't really do collective with a subtype because there isn't overarching collective with two. They're not really subtypes, they're this or that when we get to collective. Am I going to share based on the logical experiment I have been through where I can swap out an element, retest it, and find a logical, rational continuation of my experiment? Or am I going to go over here into abstract collective where I have to have an experience? Abstract collective that goes from the root up to the solar plexus is the stream of feelings, the channel of recognition, and the channel of transitoriness, also called the experiential way. The experiential way is what most humans consider like going out and having an adventure and then learning something about it. You know, this is someone who shares their autobiography at the end of their life because they can reflect back on everything that they went through and they can share that with everybody. Now, I used the collective keynote quite a few times without referring to it as that's what it was, and it's sharing. The collective is here to share. They share the information of what they've learned with everyone so that the collective can benefit. What I haven't said about collective is that it belongs in a group. I have not said that collective means you have to be with a collection of people. Why wouldn't you want to be with a collection of people? There are tiers to how well you can know yourself and be yourself. And there are also kind of like situations that different tiers of you might want to get involved in or might want to avoid. If I'm in the very beginning of my human design journey, strategy and authority are the two most crucial elements. I want to know how I engage with the world, and I want to know how I'm meant to make decisions. It's very easy for me to do those things when I'm not consistently influenced by other people, in particular, the auras of not self people. If I want to learn how to use my strategy, it would not be a good idea for me to hang out with a bunch of people who have no idea how to invite me, how to follow their own strategy. It's going to be much harder to play a game by myself in a crowd. Now, you have the potential to be you when you're alone. Like, don't get me wrong, you're always whatever you are, but there is the true self-expression of you, the deconditioned soul purpose living their signature. There is that version of you that can exist. But that version of us is never something we just decide to be. It's something we really have to work towards. You know, if I wanted to quit drinking, it wouldn't be a good idea to go to the bar with a bunch of alcoholics. We can make things easier on ourselves, or we can make things significantly harder on ourselves. Now, a lot of times in the beginning, you don't know that you're making something harder on yourself. Take it from me, the third line, who has learned a lot of this stuff the hard way over many years. I learned a lot of this stuff the hard way. One of the things that I learned is Penta and Wa dynamics. A Penta is 3 to 5 people. Now, I'm a projector, and different types of projectors have different gifts when it comes to the group arrangements that we can be in. I am a basic projector. I do not have an alpha key. I am not an alpha projector. I am not here to hold a Wa. I am only here to hold 3 to 5 people in aura. A Wa is a much bigger group. An alpha projector can hold a wah. We're talking 15, 16 people. And a wah can be broken up into 3 to 5 pentas. Okay, there's a lot of math and patterns in human design. Now, something can happen called getting stuck in a penta. You can get locked into a penta. One of the things I want people to understand is that you are you, or you have the greatest potential to be you, especially without influence, when you're alone. Now, as soon as you put yourself in a group, I'm not talking like you mentally being like, I now identify with the group, and I mentally resist leaving the group, and I make a choice to not be able to leave. It doesn't happen that way. It would be easier if it happened that way. This stuff is sneaky. You know, you will at one moment notice, oh my God, I don't feel good. Oh my God, I'm experiencing my not self-esteem. Oh, I feel bitter. Oh, I feel frustrated. I feel angry. What's going on right now? Why isn't anybody engaging with me right? Why isn't anybody when things start to feel off in a group, that's the moment you're going to realize you got locked into one that you didn't plan to be locked into, and you're experiencing group conditioning. That's what I want people to know. When you go into a group, you're going, hey, group, condition me. When I think about people being social within human design, I think the best anybody can have is one top tier accountability buddy. If you can get a partner, a friend, a confidant who is ideally same type as you. Same type is the most basic layer of we get each other, you know? Go for that. You can have other common elements with people that can be really helpful. Having someone who's the same type and the same authority can be amazing, or same type and same profile, or same type and same motivation. Look for certain things that can help you understand each other. But when I think about what you don't want to do socially in human design, you don't want to hang out in groups, especially big groups. I got very, very mixed feelings about gatherings, festivals, conferences, group events. I have very big concerns and questions, and also I'm not going to voice those concerns to people, and I'm just going to watch. I'm just going to keep watching. But it's very, very curious to me when a lot of people in human design, who I wouldn't necessarily say are experiencing their signature, decide to have really big gatherings, because the group conditioning going on there, taste, and this is me knowing the word and not wanting to say it, and it's such a spleen word, but it's dirty. It's energetically dirty. I haven't seen too many signature related things come out of people who spend a lot of time in group settings. It's not just collective. Collective does not mean be in groups or found in groups or found in collectives of people. It means shared with the collective. The tribe, tribal people, they don't have to be family people. You can be totally tribal and have a great resistance to being a parent. You might not want any kids. Just because the tribe is what really more of what we would perceive as a pentadynamic. We tend to look at this and even worse, the heteronuclear family. And that's not what tribe is. Tribe means support. It means support, it means touch, it means material. Collective means shared with. Tribe means supported by. And if we're going to go over to individual, individual already gives us this aloneness. The individual doesn't need to be alone, the tribal person doesn't need to be a family person, and the collective person doesn't need to be found in groups. The individual empowers. And in particular, they empower themselves. But they don't need to be alone in order to have this happen. You know, individual people, they experience a high level of aloneness even when they're with other people. I really don't ever want individual people thinking like we're meant to be alone. We have to be alone. No. You need to be yourself. You need to be so much yourself that you can't be influenced when you're in the Penta, in the Wa, in the group. That's so hard. There's a very cool sequence that happens here, and it starts with the individual, and it starts with the individual loving themselves so much that they're willing to be whatever they are. You know, they love themselves so much. They go their own way. It's extreme self-respect. And there is a great loneliness for this, because there is a willingness to leave behind the things that aren't good for you, that are trying to change you, that are trying to influence you. The individual has to protect their differentiated, mutative nature. Now, the interesting thing is the tribe is on the hunt for the individual. The tribe, now there is this family supportive genetic background. The tribe is always got their eye out for that perfect individual to mutate from within the family structure. Now, when you grow kids, when you raise kids, the individual blossoms through support in the family structure. And I don't mean like a little individual kid has to be raised by a tribal family. No, I'm talking about like, it's not quite a metaphor, but like I am a purely tribal person. We all know that I have a big attachment to one purely individual person. I am very defensive of this person. And in exchange, this person brings me a lot of empowerment and mutation. And I'm way better in my motivation because of it. I respect myself more. I'm good at pushing back the influence that shouldn't be here. You know, I have a role as a tribal person, really, to defend and protect the mutation that we all need. Because it's once and I'm not just saying like me, I'm not really special in this, it's aspects of my definition I'm speaking to. When the tribal person protects, defends, and supports that individual person, then we can basically guarantee that that mutation is going to make it into the genetic field. And the tribe really wants that. The tribe always wants new genetics. The answer to this is pretty obvious. You don't want to sleep with your sibling. You're going to have weird looking kids. You need new genes in tribal genetics. And once we bring in those new genes, we bring them up, you know, they're supported, they're protected by us, they have a chance to take hold, then the collective starts paying attention and goes, hey, well, we want that. We like that, you know? But if you go from individual to collective, the collective will always try and kill the mutation. It doesn't know how to deal with it. The collective is much more much more universalized. It wants everybody to be like, kinda okay, but there's better we could do. You might be asking yourself, what kind of circuitry am I? Not me, you. What kind of circuitry are you? How do you know? I'll tell you a few places where you're gonna find circuitry has more influence in your body graph. Channels are the number one spot. Number one. What channels do you have? What circuitry do they live in? What's their keynote? Is it sharing? Is it empowerment? Is it support? Now, also, a few other places where I find that this has some effect is your incarnation cross. What gates make up your personal incarnation cross? Are they collective? Are they tribal? Are they individual? Do any of those gates make a channel? So I am someone who has a tribal channel. I'm only the channel of surrender. I am someone who has a purely collective incarnation cross. Cross of consciousness. 5, 35, 64, 63. Now that 5, my sun gate, my personality sun gate, this thing that I have a strong tendency to think that I am, is collective. So I'm very tribal, very collective in my purpose. But then my motivation is a 6. Now, 6th color motivation is individual in nature. It is self-empowering, self-loving, goes its own way, doesn't get involved. It's very individual in nature. So my channel, what I get recognized and invited for to guide is through my projected tribal channel. It's what gives me my projector aura. It's the first thing anybody meets in me. But then as they get involved with me, as you watch me over my whole life, you can see that I have a lot to share with the collective. But my attitude while I go about everything is kind of individual because it's my motivation. So there is this, I don't know, I have a complexity of a formula in me. I have my own, I think of it like a perfume. You know, I've got these top notes and whatever. I am unique. I am my own smell. This has been a different one. I'm gonna leave it here. Thanks for hanging out. See you next time.